how to fly and all that. I can provide you those kind of trainings, which does not cost. You just have to schedule a time with me, and I can, give you some kind of trainings, hands-on training over the drones or some other kind of instrumentation that we have in our lab. As a part of university, we follow the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we respect all the religions, race, sex, mental status, disability. So there are equal opportunities for the people who are working or coming to the University of Maryland Extension. So the different topics, I will dive like most of the topics that we have been working with, or we kind of deal with. For example, irrigation water management is one of the area there where I focus most. Then it comes to the digital elevation and electrical conductivity of the fields. I'm not talking in general, but about the field where you have your cropping system. Then we dive into drainage water management, another big issue with the fields that you want to irrigate your field or you want to plant your crop, but later on you realize that there is not enough drainage in the field, which means you are dealing with some kind of water quality issues out of the field versus your field, which is losing the water which should not lose at the time when you have the crop. So there are two ways that you can do the manual way or you can do the all automated based on the AI. Then we will go for the drone technology, mapping, spraying, and then yield monitors for the row cropping systems and the precision planting. So these are the big areas that I'm going to cover, but we will go much deeper into each topic afterwards. So first question is like, why do we need irrigation? Of course, when you think that everything is uniform in a field, which means we are already making some kind of wrong assumptions because the field can be varying in terms of the variability of the soil water dynamics, meaning how water is flowing within the soil layers does not mean that everything is happening uniformly throughout the field. Another way to see it, uniform irrigation, like if you have a 300-acre field and you apply same amount of water, let's say 1 inch, you are going to apply 300-acre inch of water at a time. However, if you realize that your field is very much variable, meaning you have wetter spots or the dry spots, for the wetter spots, you might have to apply only half of the inch, meaning if you are applying half of the inch water, you are going to save 150-acre inch of the water at a time. Again, the distribution of the rainfall is not the same from one growing season to another. This is the example from Alabama. If you see the growing season in 2018, July, this is the corn study. The July was the month where there was very minimum rainfall was received around 2 centimeter, 2.5 centimeter. And farmer was waiting, hey, I think I have received enough rain. So July, is the good time. But if you don't have the irrigation system, you are going to lose the crop because this is the time for the crop to receive as much as water they can because of the maturity or silking stage. Now, if you go from 2018 to 2019, what do you see? July is the month where maximum rainfall was received, but May and June, there was little rainfall, but this is the stage where plants need the water to grow. And you don't have enough water from rain, so you have to rely on the irrigation system due to such kind of availability during the same growing season from month of April to August, or if you go from one season to another season. These are the reasons like, why do I need the irrigation system in my field? Since changing climate is affecting a lot of rainfall variability, this makes sure that, if you have the irrigation system and you apply irrigation, sometimes maybe 2 or 3 times during the growing season, you might get a better yield. Ultimately, the goal is to get the good production out of your field. So this is the picture from June this year in Central Maryland, where my office is. And you can see this left-hand side picture is no irrigation, and you can see how does corn look like. However, if you see the right-hand side picture where my cursor is, you can see very healthy watery plants. So this is where we were striving like to see like why it is happening, and we realized that because that it was really hot and no rainfall was received during that period. So I irrigated the plots where I wanted to see the irrigation impact versus no irrigation or just relying on the rainfall. This is where we need the irrigation. How do we manage the water, especially in the field? Precision irrigation water management. The way I am saying it is based on the sensors. What we do, we collect the samples from the field, from the farmer's field, the intact soil cores, bring to the lab, analyze the data to see how much water can be retained in that soil of that farmer's field. If we know that information, we can use the sensors to know when to start irrigation and how much. When, like the figure B, this is the soil moisture and these are the watermark tensiometers. We put those in the field the way my we install them between the rows or between the plants at the depth depending on the cropping system. For example, corn we go for 24 inches, and then ultimately you have a sensor sitting in the field which is all IoT, Internet of Things, meaning you install the sensor, you are recording the data. The data has been sent to the cloud using the AI, and that data on the cloud you can see on your phone. So I make my operations from my phone. I see the data on phone early morning, see, hey, how my crop is doing today. And if I realize that this is not the point to irrigate, I keep it going until afternoon, and then I check again like how it is happening in the afternoon. When I realize that this is the time to trigger irrigation, I go to the field and turn on the irrigation. You can turn on irrigation if you have the facility to operate from your phone, or you can just go to the field and just start irrigation. And this is the center pivot irrigation field. So the figure E is showing whenever we get the information, the alert from phone that today is the time for irrigation, we turn on the irrigation. When it comes to the management zone, so you remember that I was saying the variability in the field. This is the field on under irrigation with center pivot 300 acre. This field is bigger than 300 acres, which was around 500 acres, but for center pivot irrigation system, it was 300 acres. And the field was varying in terms of topographic wetness index. This is the data that you can get from your harvester, because whenever you harvest, it gets the elevation points. From those elevation points, you can create the topographic wetness index. What does it tell? Green numbers or green color is indicating higher TWI or topographic wetness index, meaning this area remains wet most of the time because of the low elevation. Red areas indicating higher elevation as well as a higher TWI, meaning this area remains dry over the time in this field. No matter what happens, if you apply same irrigation amount all over the field, this field will remain dry, the red area compared to the green area of this field. So we have like HY, MY, LY indicating higher yield, medium yield, or the LY is the lower yield. Why it is that? This is coming from the yield data. This farmer was facing 10 years of the corn yield loss, this part of the field of LY. So we call it LY because it was the least crop production that was happening to this area of the field versus HY is the high production area. Same way, we develop the slope, and you can do it for free, using the open source platform, and you have the data from your harvester. If you don't have the harvester which takes the data into account for the elevation, there are open data sources like satellites. You download the figure and you can see how does your field look like, and I'll send you some links later on. And this shows me how the water will be flowing in my field alone. So these lines are indicating like black dots, meaning the water is flowing towards those dots. If you see the HY area, you see all the water is coming into this area. However, if you see the LY, water is going out of this area. So both of my plots are indicating that there is something wrong. We should focus on the variability to address the question of the irrigation water. So remember that I was talking about the crop yield. This is the yield data. If you see the HY area, the green dots, you can see in terms of kilogram per hectare, it's like 15,000 minimum to 18,000 kilogram per hectare. But if you want to understand in terms of bushels per acre, it's like 2,400 bushels per acre in the high yield area. However, if you see the red area, which is the LY area, is producing minimum of 3,000. You can see the difference. If you are having the cost in the market for per bushels is like $3 right now, I guess $3.3. You can imagine how much money you are going to lose from 2,400 to 500. It's like 2,000 bushels per acre. This much amount with $3, per bushels that you are going to lose the cost from your field alone at the end of the growing season. But we are not including even how much nitrogen you applied to this field, how much water you applied, how many times you turn on the irrigation system without considering that you have to apply less water or more water in a particular part of your field. So this is how we learn from the farmers field that, how can we help them to maintain the maximum production by utilizing the technology and the resources he has in his field. So this is how it looks like, LY, MY, and HY. And we did a lot of studies on that. And we made the conclusion that, all the areas should be treated differently, not considering the uniformity, throughout the field will not give you the answer that you are looking for. So we installed the sensors, we collected the data, we studied that for almost 3 years, and we came to the point, as I mentioned, those were the tensiometers, which means they give you the KPA, meaning the pressure. So most of the time, if you go to a doctor, they don't ask you how healthy you are. They ask you, what is the problem? Do you feel stress, anxiety, and all that, right? Similarly, plant do the same, or soil does the same. So we are measuring the tension in the soil for the plants. So this kilopascal is indicating higher is the number in positive is the higher stress, lower number in positive is the lower stress. But if you want to see in terms of the soil moisture, higher is the number, lower will be the soil moisture. So 102 kilopascal based on the data that we collected in terms of the soil cores analyzed in the lab and the sensors data, we find out that the 102 kilopascal of the soil sensor reading would be the point to start irrigation. How much? Based on that, in the high yield zone, which is HY, will be 2.6 centimeter of amount. However, if you consider LY zone, this will be 70 kilopascal at the rate of 1.9 centimeter. You can see how much water we were going to save, let's say around 0.7. But imagine 300 acre multiplied by 0.7 centimeter, this much amount of water you are going to save at a time when you trigger the irrigation in the field. When you trigger irrigation, you want to do some tests. So this is the center pivot irrigation system. Before we actually do the irrigation, we want to see if all the nozzles are working. So for that, we do the uniformity test. If you see this, the white cups with the sticks throughout the center pivot system, these are the cups that are catching the water from each nozzle, and we measure with the measuring cylinder to know how much water we applied and how much water each nozzle is releasing. So we compare how the uniformity is happening. We call it catch can test. I can send you the link to read more about in detail, which will tell you how do we do these tests and why those are important. Once you do that, ultimately the goal is to see if you can do the variable rate irrigation, right? The way I've been talking, HY, LY, meaning we want to trigger irrigation differently. So I'm going to play a picture or the video that you see there are some nozzles turned on, these two, and they are not, meaning we are applying variable rate irrigation based on the data that we were collecting from a farmer's field, and we create the prescriptions map the way I have been showing you, and then we just follow the way based on the need we apply the water, not based on the assumption of the uniformity. Now, digital elevation and electrical conductivity. This is very important component, as I spoke already in the previous slide. Most of the satellite data can be used for these kind of operations. As I mentioned, that RTK real-time kinematics or GNSS system will tell you how close or how much accuracy you have in terms of your elevated field. Field cannot be the flat, right? It would be undulated, like you have some hills, some the lower areas, and this is where you want to understand your field for the water movement as well as the nutrient movement. So topographic vertex index, slope, and elevation give you the maximum information to understand the field variability. Again, there is a high-end technology LiDAR, which is very expensive one. These are the tools that you can deploy in your field and get very precise information even about the crop. You can look through the cropping system using the LiDAR imagery. So again, like you remember this one from the previous slide that we created the slope based on the data that we collected. It was collected from the John Deere Starfire 6000 RTK GPS system, the elevation data. Based on the elevation data, we created the slope, we created drainage lines, we created the topographic wetness index, and all these kind of analysis we can do using QGIS, which is the open source software. If you don't know how to use it, you can go to any county extension office, ask them, hey, I have this data and I want to see if you can help me to understand my field with this data. They will, if you're in Maryland, they will reach out somebody who has the experience like me, and then I will process the data to help you with that kind of problem. Or if you are outside Maryland, you can go to any extension office in your district and they will help you with this kind of data. Now, when it comes to digital elevation and electrical conductivity, right? So soil ECA, electrical conductivity, that's how we represent it. It's a strong indicator for the soil media composition. Very important for creating the management zones, because if you have the high, electrical conductivity, it relates very well with the soil physical and chemical properties. Higher ECA, you can indicate you have higher nutrient absorption, you have higher capacity of soil to retain the water when you apply in terms of irrigation. How do we get this data? Is the instrument known as the VARIS, and I will put the link in the chat later on. So this is how you put with the tractor, you drive an entire field and you can see the red areas where you have the lower ECA, and the green area or blue area is the high ECA. This is how you see the pattern, because the field is varying in terms of the elevation as well as in terms of the electrical connectivity. This is very important when you create the management zones and you want to deal with the different kind of nutrients in your soil. So how do I use the soil electrical conductivity? How does this EC relate to my soil properties? How do we use the various data, or how to understand, or what does soil electrical conductivity inform us about my field? So this kind of information I will put in the chat as a link. These are the YouTube videos, not more than I think 2 minutes, which will tell you all about how does EC look like in your field. Now, based on these, the variability in the field, water is not only the issue in terms of the productivity, the nitrogen or the nutrient, the phosphorus, right? So this is the same field. How did we do that? We did based on the plant samples. So we collected the plant samples and analyzed for the plant total nitrogen, plant orthophosphorus, the dissolved phosphorus, and the plant total phosphorus. My HY, high yield area, right? Everything was above zero. When I say the above zero, meaning we are taking the average of entire field and taking the difference if my HY was close to zero or above zero. Meaning if you have everything, close to zero, meaning the average of the field is same as the average of your high yield area. However, if you see the lower yield, zone or lower yield area was always negative, meaning your plants were having lower nitrogen, lower phosphorus in comparison to the higher yield area. So meaning no matter what you did, you never ever reach to the point of the average of the field. You are always lower than the required phosphorus and nitrogen in your plants, meaning you supplied whatever you did, but it did not reach to the crop. So this is how we take the insight based on the management zones for variable rate irrigation and variable rate nutrient application. If you apply nitrogen and phosphorus, you want to be very mindful. How do I do based on the uniformity or based on the zone in my field? Another aspect of the water management is the drainage water management. This is very common in Midwest. Because of the soil type and they don't have much irrigation in that area. So they have to deal with the drainage. So this is the drainage water management system, meaning we install the drainage structures at the edge of the field and we put the tiles inside the field and make a flow of the water through these channels. How does it work? We open the gate by lifting up and close the gate by putting them down. So, for example, if you see the figure A, the water level is rising, right? Because this is indicating after harvest to reduce the nitrogen delivery. So you want to hold the nitrogen in your field. So we raise the gate and hold the water within the field. The figure B is indicating outlet was open. When do you want to open the outlet? When you want to harvest or when you want to plant, because you have to take the heavy machinery in the field. So you want to have the field, it should not be wet. So you release the water and keep the field dry and then you harvest or plant. Again, when it is the growing season, you are done with the planting, but you have to manage the water because if you don't have the irrigation system, you have to manage the water for the crop. So what you do, you raise the water table to help your plants to reach the soil moisture that is required to the root zone. So roots are taking the water that is required for the growing season. Simultaneously, we collect the soil sample, the water samples to know how much nitrate or the phosphorus is coming out of the field by going to the field outlet, the drainage outlet, and analyze those samples. This is the way to do it manually. But now there is a system that you can do it automatically, meaning based on AI, you set a point. This is, let's say, my set point. Whenever water will reach to this point, the gate will be open. So let's say for figure B, the water level is greater than set point. The wall gate was open and then it was releasing the water. Whenever the water level goes down the set point, the gate will automatically close because the water level is not to the set point. How do we do that? We put the pressure transducers to know the height of the water from the ground. Now, the drone technology. So when, I think I didn't introduce about the precision agriculture. I think, I have a question for you guys if you want to type. When you think about the precision agriculture, what is the first technology or first word that comes to your head if you want to type? No one? So maximum and most of the time when I deliver a talk and I ask question and most of the time, it's in-person talk. Whenever I ask like what technology do you think in your head when it comes to the precision agriculture? And everybody said drone. And drone because this is catching a lot of attention because most of the work you can do avoiding big machineries in your field, which create the compaction for your soil, you can do by drones. What are the uses of drones in the agriculture? For example, we will talk about the early stand counts. What does mean by the stand count? The plant population. When I say the plant population, does not mean the seed rate. Seed rate can be different than the plant population. How much emergence you see in your field is the stand count of the plant population versus how much seed you put in the field is a different number. So you want to see Let's say you put 2,000 seeds in your field, you want to see at least 2,000 plants to meet the minimum requirement, right? But it does not happen always. So we'll see that one. The crop stress based on the vegetation, like what kind of stress my crop is facing, the nutrient or water, that weed pressure. We can analyze the data with the drone imagery. How does it look like in terms of the weed pressure? The field variability. Remember that I was talking about collecting the data from the field, and that data we collected by going to the field. But most of the time now, using these kind of technology, you can analyze based on the drone imagery. Then smart spraying. When I say the smart spraying, it means based on the drone, but targeted spraying. You don't want to spray entire field, where you don't need. You can do the targeted spraying based on that data or map you get from the drone. So first thing, stand counts, right? The stand counts you can do at the V2, V3 stage of core. What you do, you fly your drone, collect the drone imagery, put into a different software, AI-based software, which will tell you how many plants you have in this field. You can do different operations like precision scouting after emergence, before the crop yield estimation. You can do different analysis that will tell you weed pressure, plant stress, and everything. Ultimately, before you harvest, you can also do the yield estimation. You go to a part of your field, get some sample for the biomass, and the software will tell you how much yield you will have from this part of the field. That can be done before even you harvest. Basically, you can do at any point to figure it out if you want to change any of your operations before you reach towards the end of the growing season. Same for the soybean. You can start from the vegetative development growth, and then before the defoliation around that point, you can do the early crop yield estimation. A lot of researchers are moving forward based on the drone imagery or the satellite imagery. They are looking at the early crop yield estimation to make the better decisions for farmers so that they can make the best management decisions for their operations. If they have to apply more nitrogen, less nitrogen, more water, less water, or if there is any issue with the disease. So one example from the stand count, this is the one of the fields in Alabama. If you see the northern part of this field in this figure, you see more green, right? But if you see on the southern part of the field, you see more red. Something was happening in this field, right? And this is all by the drone imagery, right? We didn't do anything, going in the field and count. You see 20,000 in this area. If you come here, like 17 or 16,000 of seeds or plants. So this is how it looks like. Once you analyze the stand count data using AI, it does detect where is the plant, where is no plant. So if you see the green, continuous green, meaning there is no missing plant. But if you see continuous red, meaning there is a missing plant. So one green, one red is indicating that you have enough spacing between two plants. But if you see the continuous green, there's something wrong because your planter was seeding two seeds or more than one seed with the lower spacing than you designed to your planter. Let's say you have like 6 inches of plant spacing, but it was not falling because of some reason. So it planted two seeds at a time. So you might have seen in your field that you have two or three plants together, and then you have no plants. This is what you can get the early on by doing in one field and get the insight what is the problem, and then maybe you want to rectify it before you go to the next field, or maybe you want to change in between before you go to the rest of your field. So the average planting rate was 29,000 seeds per acre. Actually, when the emergence happened, it was only 22,000, meaning 24% of the seeds were not emerged. So you can imagine how much the loss in the seeds that you already have. Now, when it comes to the crop yield, right? This you can see this map, right? Northern part of the field looks more green and yellow. However, if you see the red part is more red. The the yield loss was 40% ultimately, not based on the seed, but based on the emergence and the crop yield data. The 40% of this, the loss in the crop yield from north to south of this field. What do you want? You want to replant when you know there is a problem, or you want to improve your management decision, for example, nitrogen. You want now like my southern part of my field is not producing enough or having some kind of problems. Maybe I want to apply less nitrogen in this part of my field versus northern part of my field, or I want to take some insight for the next year. Maybe my planter was not calibrated. I want to test it first before I go to the field. Maybe something is wrong with my planter. It's not calibrated well because it is delivering two or three seeds together versus sometimes it is missing the number of seeds that it has to plant. So those are the insights that you can take from one growing season to another growing season, or from one field to another field. This is very important when you do at the early uh, period when you plant the crop. So this is very first, like V2 or V3 stage of the corn or the soybean, that you want to take the decisions what you want to do the next. Now the weed pressure. So this field is about 100, I guess, 63 acre entire field. And we did the weed pressure analysis, right? We did the drone imagery and then analyzed the data. The green is indicating fine, meaning no stress. Yellow is indicating low weed pressure, which is around 19.3% of the field, which is around 31 acre. And then high weed pressure area is the red, you can see in this figure, is 7.58% or 12%. Ultimately, if you summarize it, total area which was under weed pressure, 44 acre, around 27% of your field was affected by the weed pressure. Now, if you apply chemicals using drone or your machine, you are going to apply throughout your field. But that can be very challenging in terms of the cost because you have to buy the chemical, right? And then you have to drive the tractor with the boom and you have to put the money on that too. So if you see this field, this is how it looks like. You don't see the weed pressure everywhere. There are the weed pressure areas. What you can do, you can fly the drone first, get the drone imagery, create a map or pockets for the areas where you want to spray. So let's say I fly my drone, I don't want to spray in this area, I just want to spray here. So drone will go there, spray, stop, go to the next target. This is why we call it the smart target spraying. We will talk in the next slide, but I don't want to spray throughout the field because I will lose the money in the chemical. I will lose the money in find the boom throughout the field with the diesel and all. But having a drone will help you to fly based on the targeted spots. Now, precision scouting. So when I say the precision scouting is more about the vegetation index, right? Or something that you want to understand more about the field. If you have like a 160 acre or 300 acre field, you're never going to walk to see where is the problem unless you see from the aerial imagery. You should have an eye in your field from the sky. This is what I call to my farmers. Otherwise, you want to walk in the field, which will never happen because you will never know what is the problem until you go to spray throughout the field or something like that. Then you will see the problem. But by then, it will be too late. So having this kind of data, this is the field that we got the drone imagery, and we just spotted some of the areas, right? Hey, why this is red in between green? Why this is happening, right? All those dark circles that I have here, I wanted to see what is happening with this field. So this is how it looks like when you actually take the field image. And when you take this field image, this is how it looks like. Anybody, any guess if you want to type? Nobody? Okay. So This is, let me show you the picture actually. This is what it is. Not the not all the plants in the entire field are the same. These are the small plants. Something is wrong. Maybe you want to see the soil in that area. Maybe soil was dry. The seed was too deep. That time when planter did the job for the planting, or maybe something wrong. So I want to identify, and you cannot get this kind of information without drone imagery. Is the real field, or and this is the real problem. And you can see this not like one spot. This is throughout the field. Something is wrong. We want to rectify before we go to the next one season. So this is like smaller plants. Now, when it comes to, as I was saying, the targeted spraying, right, or targeted spot that you want to identify or to understand your healthier crop versus unhealthier crop or the crop stress is the NDVI. You can create the NDVI based on your data collected from the drone, or you can also, generate the NDVI for free for your field by using the satellite data. And the satellite data, the question comes like, how do we access the satellite data? And this is one of the questions that most of the farmers, they ask me, hey, there are free platforms, but how do we use the data is the question. So there is a software, if you want to, download in your phone, it's a phone app, One Soil. Go to your, the Play Store if you are using the iPhone, or go to the Google Play if you are using the Android, and down type this One Soil. The app should look like this. What it does, you log in there, go to your field, you create a boundary, and if you want to get the help how to create the boundary and all that, you can always reach out to me. You create a boundary, it will pull automatically the satellite imagery for your field. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to create the boundary of your field. You can create the boundary of your house where you are just to test it, and it will pull all the satellite imagery and it will give you the NDVI for that boundary for that day. So satellite data is not available all the time. So it comes every 5 days or 7 days, depending on what satellite data you are getting. You can get the NDVI for your field, and you can compare what was the NDVI from my last week to this week, and you can compare both. And it can be done sitting at home. You don't have to go to the field all the time. What is the problem in using the satellite data? The problem is that if you have a the cloudy day, you will not have the satellite imagery for the field. So if the cloud is over your field, you will not get the NDVI for your field. But doesn't mean that you will not get for the next time. So there are some pros and cons of using the satellite versus drone imagery, just based on like what you need, what kind of insights you're looking for. The satellite imagery gives you the at least the idea about your the farmland. And then you can make the decision, hey, I think this gives me really good insight. More green, meaning my crop is healthy. More red, meaning something is wrong in my field. So that kind of insight you can get, and later on you can just go to that field where you see more red, just go and see, if there's something wrong in that area by seeing the satellite imagery and creating the NDVI. So this platform will give you the free NDVI. You don't have to do anything. It might create, I think now, the zoning. When I say the zoning, the prescription map, you see this entire field looks like one NDVI, but you see the more red, green and blue. Later on, when you create the prescription map, it create the homogeneous areas based on the properties in that particular part of the field. You see the red, blue, green spots. These are three different management zones that based on the NDVI. I did spend more time on that because this is one of the free, app that you can use and make the decision whether you need a drone in further operations. Now, aerial spraying, the targeted spraying. So there are different drones, that you can use for different kind of operations. Like if you want to apply liquid, if you want to apply solid, or if you want to do the cover cropping, whatever you want to do, there are always some kind of technology available in the market Of course, the cost would matter, and that comes into the picture when you choose what you want to do with the operations. So one of the studies that we, this summer that we conducted, we wanted to test how a drone is spraying, and we did in different timings, days like early morning, late evening, early afternoon, late afternoon, to see like what is actually drone spray look like. This is the watermelon field, and we use this field. This is a farmer's field. We were, spraying it, and how do we analyze the data? How drone is performing? We use we call it water sensitive papers. You might have heard this term. And we put the water sensitive paper. Those are very sensitive, like special papers. I think it costs $2. Very, small strip that you put in the field when you fly the drone, spray the chemical, it always absorb the water out of those nozzles that releases at a time when it is spraying. So it absorbs and make the spot there. So this is the study that we were conducting, and this is the glimpse that how drone was. You see that. So I don't know whether you guys could hear. Ron, can you confirm if did you hear any sound of the drone?
Excuse me?
Did you hear any sound when drone was flying?
No.
Okay, so I think this is because of the zoom. This is what I was expecting. What I was trying to show in this video, when drone was flying, it was creating a lot of disturbance. When you have a crop, right? This was the watermelon crop, but if you have, let's say, corn, when you apply chemicals, you want to get disturbance so that you can spray the chemicals inside the field. Actually, it can reach from the top to the bottom. This is the idea that I was, showing the drone performance. When it is flying, it can spread the crop, open the space, release the chemical there, so it reaches from top to bottom of your crop. Similarly, if you are in the nursery producer, or if you are the ornamental cropping system you have, or if you have some kind of trees, like the Christmas trees or something that you want to spray, you want to make sure that you are spraying from top to bottom, right? Drone can do a really good job from the top, but if you have enough wind created by the disturbance created by the propellers, it can spray deep into the leaves of your tree. This is what a lot of people are doing the research now. They want to spray entire nursery or entire orchard using the drone because it creates a lot of disturbance. So this is what we study as well. How does it look like when you put this spray paper, when you fly the drone with the chemicals? This is how it looks like. It collects the droplets, absorb there, and it keeps there. You don't want to touch with your hands, and I'll show you what happens. And then we just collected a lot of samples from a lot of treatments, and then this is the specialized the software, the AI base. You see these dry the blue big spot, these are my thumbs because I accidentally hold this in my hand and I wanted to have one sample. This is not the true sample. It was just to show you if you hold with your hand, it will take the moisture out of your thumb. What it does, it scans the drops, it counts, it analyzes the size of each drop. Doesn't matter how small or bigger it is because it's an AI base. It can tell you what is the extremely fine numbers or percentage based on the volume that was done in terms of the drone application. So let me show you here. What do we call the extremely fine, the size droplets? It goes from less than 60 micron. If you go to the ultra coarse, that is the larger drops, greater than 665 micron. These are the ASABE, American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers. These are the standard. Most of the uh, research or most of the drones companies, they are using these standards. They might change a little bit name. For example, medium, they call it average. So these are the categories that everybody is following, and what is the recommendation, like what droplet size we should use, it comes to the point how, what kind of chemical you are using to spray. So for this particular study, if you see, maximum was the average, right? 29.5%, which is around 236 to 340. But you can set the settings in your drone based on the nozzle size, that this is the fine setting I want to receive. But when it goes out, receive to the paper or your crop, the size would be different because your releasing rate is different than the actual drop that has been received by the water sensitive paper or the crop. So what is the the common aerial spraying recommendation based on these standards? The agrochemical application with fine, medium, or coarse spray. So if you go back, fine, medium, and coarse, these are the recommendation. 106 micron to 403 micron. This is the recommendation based on this standard if you are applying aerial chemicals. Fine, what it does, it provides better retention for direct spraying on the target, including like foliar acting weed control or contact acting fungicide and insecticide. Medium, when do you want to use those? When you are doing the systematic acting fungicides. There are definitions. What is the foliar acting? Is the weed control only affect the plant parts that touches directly. Whenever it comes to the systematic acting, you spray the chemical and it spreads from one point to another point. This is how it, the definitions are. And the coarser spraying is based on the soil amendments, like you put into the root or the soil and then it is spread out throughout the plant system. So these are based on the categories that has been created by these standard based on the studies. However, there's no standard practice that you will find from one drone operator to another drone operator. I can talk a little bit more. How do we get the drone operator license and all that? If you have any question about that, I can talk a little bit later. So what did we find? So this is the same car, right? If you see the red is the maximum coverage area. So the coverage area of this paper, right? Maximum coverage was happening with the 8 feet high. So we had two treatments. So two treatments meaning you have 8 feet treatment 1, 10 feet treatment 2. So 8 feet was having maximum coverage on the water sensitive paper when we applied the chemical. Treatment 2 was the 10 feet height. You can see the differences even in the deposition. What does it tell? Like increasing height leads to more spray dispersion due to wind and the propeller downwash. But if you want to see the drift, what we call the drift is we have the main target and then how much it was going because of the drift or because of the air or the wind speed or the gust or the propeller downwash. So if you see if you go away from the main target, it is going for the 40 feet away from the main target, or the overall treatment was very minimal, close to zero. This is what we want to achieve because we don't want to see the drift. But if you have a bigger field and you are applying in middle of the field, this drift is better because you are releasing the chemical towards your crop. However, it is not good if you are applying these chemicals with aerial spray at the edge of the field, because if your wind is in another direction, if chemicals are going to other field, you want to be very careful with your neighbor when you are spraying. GPS and GIS. So most of the time I get a question from growers actually, because when you send the sample, the laboratories, they never ask you this question because they need to analyze the sample. It doesn't matter for them, or it might that why do you have lower or higher phosphorus and nitrogen? But for us, it is very important. For growers, it is very important. Why? Let's say you collected one soil sample before you started planting and you sent to a lab and for the nitrate, ammonium or the phosphorus, and you get a result, and you next time you send another sample, you find the same. And you are like, we applied a lot of chemicals during the growing season and still I see the same results. The problem is, did you collect the sample from the same spot? And if you say yes, how do you know that you collected the sample from the same spot? So to verify whether your sample has been collected from the correct place, you want to use the GPS and GIS system. So you go to the same spot with the GPS, collect the sample, send to the lab, go next time to the same location. If you want to compare the nitrogen phosphorus results that from the previous result to the next time results. Same way, if you go to the one spot in your field, it's not going to represent your field. It's the one location. What you want to do, you want to identify different spots, composite them, and send the sample to the lab and see what is the result. That will give you the information what is happening throughout the field if you don't want to send multiple samples. Same way, you want to go later on during the growing season after you do the application, you want to go to the same spots, mix them, send to the lab. That way you will know what exactly is the situation in your field if you do not care about the variability. But if you want to care about the variability, you want to send different sample from the each spot. That will give you the more accuracy in the data. This is what it is, indicating from this slide. What will happen with that? You might get the management zone delineation idea. Maybe my samples are different and it is indicating different rates of the nitrogen and phosphorus. And I want to get some insights. And this way you can also detect the areas with the problem that you have in the plants. Like remember that precision scouting, you can go to that location, see the coordinate. Next time you do, you want to see whether this is the same problem at the same location or not, or you already have corrected it. So this is how you get the information based on the GPS and GIS. This is the importance of using GPS and GIS. When you use the drone or any machinery, they have inbuilt GPS and there. If you don't, especially for drones, every drone is coming with the GPS and GIS or the coordinate systems. So when we collected this, study, when we did this study for the irrigation, water management, nutrient management, or anything that we were dealing with the crop yield loss, we always try to identify the locations by walking in the field and make sure that we go every time the same location. So monitor what is happening actually in the green area, the red area, or the yellow. Now the yield monitors. So whenever you have the yield monitor, you always want to see the data. So your yield monitor, when you harvest, will give you some kind of map, right? Green is better, red is better. That's the thumb rule. Like, you want to set up in your yield monitor. That will give you the baseline. Let's say if you got the data for your field and you can overlay different layers, for example, elevation. How does my crop yield look like in this field when I put elevation layer? And it can tell you maybe high elevation was having the lower yield or lower elevation was having the higher yield. How does it look like in terms of the electrical conductivity? Again, you can put the same layer on top of it and you can see, okay, maybe there's a variability, but I'm losing the crop or the yield in the area where I have higher elevation, lower electrical conductivity, and you can draw the attention to that particular area because you want to improve the area where you are losing the most. So it's the same, you have seen this figure before, right? This is the same field where we are studying the crop yield loss. This area that we put the layer on of the elevation, we put the layer on the electrical conductivity, we put the layer on for the soil types even, and also we also overlay the nutrients. And everything was matching. So this field was having the problems related to nutrients as well as with water because everything that farmer was doing in this field was uniform, and that's not a good practice for this kind of field because this area, this more red area was in terms of the higher elevation, lower topography or topographic wetness index and the hard slope. So you want to consider this as a different field to do any kind of operations. Now, when it comes to the precision planting, there are different downforce systems. If you're using a planter, they like too much downforce, you might get the same problem that you saw in one of the previous slides, that plants were smaller because you put the seed too deep and it did not emerge well. Too little downforce, maybe it will not emerge just because it's on the top of the soil layer and it's not getting enough nutrients and water, to emerge. So that could be the problem. So optimum downforce is the correct downforce. And what are the factors which affect the downforce in the soil type, soil temperature, soil condition, compaction, and the field variability. Those kind of systems can help you to do the operations if you have a automated downforce system, meaning you set a point where it will assess the field. If it finds out the compaction is higher, maybe seed should be planted with the greater force. So the system will analyze itself and push the seed into the soil at the greater force. But if you go with the, let's say 35 pounds LBS that I want to apply throughout the field, maybe some patches of your field would be harder and 35 would not be enough. Similarly, some patches of your field will be, wet or, the soft, and you put the 35, it goes deeper. But based on the automated system, they can assess based on the AI. It's like the action and response based unit. Like it takes the action, does the job, get the response, and make the decision. Okay, maybe I have to apply less force or more force. So too little downforce, what it will do, like improper seed trench closer, inadequate soil moisture that will prevent the seed from germinating, and poor root development. So too little is not a good. The optimum downforce, which is the automated control. This is the best technology that you can see when you are doing the row cropping systems. The plant at a proper depth, whatever the depth it is required based on the downforce. Elevate the excessive downforce to prevent the seed trench or compaction. Adjust the go to compensate for the variable soil conditions. So one of the example that I will put it here, how to set the correct downforce, and that can be done based on the unit that you have. What it can do, if you have the optimum downforce setting, it can improve the crop yield because you are planting at the right depth. What it can do, the challenge to determine the field due to varying types, tillage, and soil moisture. Automatically maintains the optimum gauge wheel load and ensure the accurate seed placement. Active downforce, this is the term that when you use this, address the variability because actively it is working on the response and action based condition and make the it adjusts the pressure based on the soil conditions or the field conditions. So this is one of the study conducted in this, in Kansas by Kansas State University researchers. And you can see they did use the active downforce, and you can see the variability in terms of how much force was applied by the planter. If you see the red areas, they applied more than 200 lbs. And if you see the blue areas, less than whatever it was recommended. For example, if you see the green is 0 to 100 lbs, most of the area was covered by the green, as you can see. But there were some patches where they applied more than 200. Imagine if you are applying with like 200 lbs throughout the field, what will happen to this green area? Like you will lose entire seed because you are applying 200 lbs to put your seed at a certain depth. It will go deeper than you think, and then your emergence will happen. Maybe if it happens, it will be late in the season. Your plants will be shorter in height. Then precision plant exact. So this is the very new technology. I think it came in 2021 or 2022. What it does the seed to seed application, meaning when you are putting a seed in the soil, it also applies the nitrogen at that as a starter fertilizer and save the 2/3 of the cost that based on the studies has been conducted in, I think, in Iowa or in Minnesota. They say that it can save 2/3 of the cost of the application in the nitrogen. How does it work? I think I'll play a video. So what it does, like they put the seed there, apply the chemical that is required, enough soil moisture, and close the trench, and that way you are giving it called the starter. You give the nitrogen that is required to emerge at the time when you do the seed planting. There are different systems based on, I think I compiled most of the planters here. If you are using the Ag Leader, John Deere, Horse, Precision Planting, depending on the Air Force or Delta Force, you can choose based on the system that you have for your operations. This is done for me, but I can take the questions like if you want to understand to get the drone license for imaging or flying, or if you want to get the license for chemical applications, and I can take any questions that you might have. Also, I would request you all, this is if you can scan this barcode. This is kind of survey to give me the feedback, to improve my teaching or how well I did in teaching. So if you have any question related to any of those topics that we talked, please, now floor is open for you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Are there any questions? Right. Well, I do have a question, Dr. Kumar. How can
Yes.
this, how can this technology be applied? And I think I've asked you this question before. How can it be applied to smaller areas of planting?
So smaller areas, I have been conducting one study, in Upper Marlboro, Central Maryland, with less than very, plot scale, very small, in not even an acre, where I put my soil moisture sensors. I want to see how my soil is behaving and how my crop is behaving in terms of the soil moisture. So remember that picture that I put in the first hand where I had the irrigation, where no irrigation, how the crop looked like. It was very
Yes.
small, less than 1 acre. It was like 30 feet wide and 75 feet long. That's it. And I was studying that to see how my crop is going to be different if I apply irrigation or if I don't apply irrigation. So if you want to see more precise water management, even for a 1 acre, you can install only one soil moisture sensor and you can monitor how does it behave in terms of the water. Same if you are doing, let's say, the drone application, for example, right? You want to see if your crop is healthy or not. You can fly the drone for your crop, and you don't have to be perfect when you fly a drone. It does the autonomous. You just create a boundary, click a button, and just sit down. The drone will do the job and come back to home.
Okay.
So it's all automated, like you just have to tell the drone, this is my field where I want to fly. So most of the technology doesn't matter if it is the small or bigger field, but like some technologies, for example, the precision planter, right? Those are the big fields. But I guess they are developing the small scale fields as well, because there's a variability. They see how much they should apply the force to put the seed in.
Thank you.
So I see. So what high value crops have I worked with? So I have worked with mostly cash crops, the row crops like corn, soybean, cotton. Uh, Currently, I'm working with another crop that I have added is the watermelon, and then I'm working with the nurseries with my horticulture team to help them how we can use the drones in the nursery productions.
Are you finding that your research varies from crop to crop?
Uh, the
Or
intake.
there's continuity around whether it's corn or barley or something of that nature?
So actually, it really depends what we are looking in terms of the, for example, row crops. It really does not matter, in terms of the analysis, because ultimately you want to get the outcomes for the point that you want to make the decisions for the better production. So for the row crops would be the same, but when it comes to the trees, right, ornamental crops, that is very important because a particular, for example, a Christmas tree is one crop for them, right? But for the entire field, like row crops, is entire field is a crop. So if you lose a Christmas tree, you are losing a crop. So when you work with this kind of system, you have to analyze each and individual plant differently. You have to monitor them differently. So we have a colleague who works with the horticulture, and we are partnering in a lot of research together. What we are doing there, we have the containers, the small containers where he's growing turmeric, he's growing other, the horticulture plants. What we are studying, the water stress as well as the nutrient stress. For the water stress, we put the soil moisture sensors and we see how much water is retained in the pot, in the container, versus when you irrigate today, if you don't irrigate at all, if you irrigate later, after 2 days or 3 days, right? So we are studying those containers to see how much value it will bring if we apply less water and less nitrogen. And we are using the drones, we are using the sensors. I mean, we are doing different treatments of the water, nitrogen. We are giving excess of nitrogen to see like how beautiful this plant look like at the end of the time period that we are growing. So it depends, like the cropping or the system that you have. For containers, each container is a crop. What is the critical in crops? Too much is worse than not enough. Too much is worse, yes, and too less is worse too. Because you are, is let's take an example, like if you want to go to a McDonald's and you are hungry for one burger and they ask, I will give you only half, you will get angry as well because you want to get enough calories to work on that day. But if you eat too much, you are not going to work that day. You are done for the day. It's the same for the plants. If you apply too much, it works because you lose the money, you lose the health. If you apply too less, you are not giving enough energy, but on the same time, you are going to lose the crop as well. So yes, I agree what you are, saying there. Wine crops. So this is one of the next uh, target, I think, that I want to take the lead. We have vineyards, with the University of Maryland extension facilities, especially in the Western Maryland. And there is a scientist, John Fiola, I think Joe Fiola, and he does work with the wines. And he's a wonderful scientist. If you have any question related to wines, he's the one you want to reach out. Uh, and I'm trying to work with him, I think next year, and we want to do some drone spraying for his wines and to see like how can we make the better environment for the spraying rather than just going, one person is spraying one, uh, area to another area, one line to another line. We want to make sure that, we try to achieve with the drones. And we have different drones in my lab. So we want to take the advantage to do these kind of studies. And wines are like very high value crops. So yes. Let me ask you this, to depend, like, the folks that who are attending, uh, how many of you have been using drones in your operations? Just type something why for yes. Or maybe how many of you are interested in using drones, not by yourself, but with the commercial pilot? No one?
It looks like no one.
So I think Ron already might have mentioned that we are conducting a conference in Maryland, which is on December 12th. And the topics that I have mentioned here, we are going to cover most of them and beyond, because we are inviting the peoples from different parts of the United States with their expertise in the particular subject matter. And this is a one-day conference from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Annapolis. And I guess I can put the link in the chat. First, like some links for you guys if you want to see how does electrical conductivity works and all that I mentioned. And I guess I will also add the conference link. And if you have any question, this is the link for the conference. And I think, Ron, you already have shared that information with them, right?
Yes, I do. And I'll send it out again.
And this conference is open to all. And this is the one place, and this is the first ever conference in Maryland where I'm inviting uh, these experts from the industries, government agencies like USDA, NGOs, and the partners from other universities to speak. And if you have any questions, if you want to get in touch with them, that is the place, because we have the day mostly, for the growers. And again, like if you have any question, you want to reach out to me, my email, you can reach out from Ryan, or that I put it there in the first slide, and I think I will share the copy of my address where I work. So feel free to ask the questions. And if you want to get some hands-on, you want to see the sensors, you want to see the drone, or any technology that I discussed here, I can train you. So I'm here for you guys if you have the questions that you want to get the answer for. If I don't have the answer, I will connect you with the right person in the university, even though that field is not my expertise. But let's say if you are looking, somebody was saying about the wine, if you want to get the answers related to the wine, I can connect you with the person who does the work on wine.
All right.
Somebody, I think Ron commented that I haven't seen the links come through. So I think that link should go to the participants.
Yeah, the links are in the chat.
Okay, I hope everybody can see the link. So I put all the links there. And I think Ron will share the conference, again with you guys. And I would request you all, if you can complete the survey that Ron sent you guys, that will help my program to prepare for the better, that I can serve the community, in a better way. So I want to understand what are your needs, where you need the most help. And University of Maryland Extension is the great platform. You don't have to pay anything. You just come for the solutions. You ask the question to us or any of us. We are here to serve you guys. And that is my one of the jobs, that I want to help most of the farmers, because I come from the farming community too.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kumar, for your time and your intellect. I really appreciate what you shared this afternoon with us. I'll make this recording available to everyone as well. And again, and I'll make Dr. Komar's contact information available as well as the information on the conference. Dr. Komar, again, thank you very much for your time and your efforts. And I wish you well in the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. I appreciate this invitation. It is going to be a better. We can do the training in person. If you have a team that want to see actual action in field, we can do the action in the field here. Any
Oh,
of those
okay.
technology. I can train the group about the drone if they want to get the license, if you want to get the experience before they buy the drone, how to fly, what are the the criteria they should fulfill. So reach out to me with a team. We can
I
find a
will.
day and we can do from morning to evening or maybe 2 hours session just to teach you guys how does it happen.
I will do that.
So yeah, and please, if you can get the responses about the survey, please share that survey with
Yes.
me.
Yes. Again, the survey is coming at the end of this webinar, and I ask that you go ahead and spend just 5 or 10 minutes just completing the 15 questions. They're very short answers, yes and no, and I'll certainly appreciate that, and I'll pass that information on to Dr. Komar.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. That is all, I guess, right?
That's all. That's all.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. And please let me know if you need me in the future. I'm there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.